Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
John C. Maxwell, one of the most respected authorities in leadership, has a great quote. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. To be a great leader, most leadership books talk about the importance of communication, openness, delegation, and willingness to set an example. There are many great tools available to help with the planning of your year in the East. The Grand Lodge of Texas has several leadership manuals that have been published over the years, all containing fantastic information and good advice. There are several documents on leadership, financial planning, and education. These can apply not only to York Rite bodies, but also to Worshipful Masters that are leading a Blue Lodge for the first time. I would encourage you all to go online and look at these resources. These documents will cover the day-to-day operations and planning of your year as a Masonic leader. However, I would like to start our conversation today by discussing the unique challenges we face as leaders in a volunteer organization. The difference between being a boss and a presiding officer. Not many people think of it this way, but almost all human relationships can be boiled down to a kind of contract. I'll give you something, and in return you'll give me something. Work, friendships, romance. We may not admit it, but it's there, even if it is on a subconscious level. What we give or could get could be just about anything. Love, money, respect. It can be tangible or intangible. Sometimes it's just a reward of that good feeling we get when we do the right thing. This contract can be either a legal one, a social one, or a personal one. It can be verbal or nonverbal, but in the end, it is a contract. Quid pro quo. In the workplace, there are managers and employees. The contract in place there is very much a written one in the form of job responsibilities, employee handbooks, and annual reviews. It goes like this. I will give you money, and in return, you will do what I ask you to do. It's that simple. For those of us who have managed employees, we know that the results are mixed at best. It may be surprising, but money is not the best motivator. If I were to tell everybody in a room, I will give you each $10 to stack all of the tables and chairs in the dining room, the results would be varying levels of engagement, varying levels of meeting of expectations. Some will do exactly what I hope for and work hard and stack the tables and chairs neatly against the walls. Some will not work hard. This may or may not be intentional. For instance, they may not understand how I want it done. This can be corrected by training. Some may not have the ability, either due to physical limitations or other issues. This can be overcome by giving them an exception or accommodation. Sometimes it is intentional. Some will not work or give the bare minimum effort or intentionally misinterpret the instructions. To resolve these issues, we must try to figure out a way to motivate, incentivize, or discipline the employee. We can appeal to pride, apply training, place them on a performance improvement plan, or finally terminate them if we feel we have exhausted all other options or just don't want to deal with it. After all, Texas is a right-to-work state. But Masonry is not a job, though as leaders sometimes it may feel like it. And members are not employees. It is a volunteer organization. And as officers in a volunteer organization, we have a much harder challenge. As officers, we may have collars and fancier aprons that visibly tell people we are a leader, but we are missing one key ingredient that a boss has in the workplace, the motivation of money, which, as we previously mentioned, may not be the best motivator. In fact, when we consider that every Mason, companion, and Sir Knight is a dues-paying member of the organization we are leading, we are on the opposite end of the spectrum. We are, in fact, asking them to pay for the privilege of being members and accepting our leadership. So, in this case, what is the contract in play in this situation? And so here is how I interpret the contract between the presiding officer and the members of any Masonic body. The members' expectations are, I will pay you my dues and you will help me have a meaningful experience. That's it. When we look at it this way, the members hold all the power in the organization. It's not quite the same as the manager-employee relationship we have just discussed. It's more like the relationship between a customer and a service provider. Members participate and pay their dues because they are looking for something, and what that is will be different for each person. Some may want to learn and expect us to provide instruction and education. Some want to have a good ritualistic experience and anticipate that we will facilitate degrees that stir their emotions and leave them feeling transformed in some way. Some want to have an enjoyable social environment and have pleasant conversations and friendships with other men of like mind. Finally, let's be honest, some just want a title of their own. These members will look to us for mentorship and expect us to provide opportunities for growth and advancement in the Masonic fraternity. Whatever their motivation may be, it is our job as presiding officers to help them find what they are looking for and meet their expectations, and at the same time, motivate them to be active participants in providing those same experiences for the group as a whole. This brings us to our specific challenge as Masonic leaders. We are expected to provide a service while leading the very same members that we need to assist us in everything we do. Going back to our earlier example, instead of paying everyone $10 to stack tables and chairs, what we must do is ask everyone to please stack the tables and chairs after collecting a $10 fee from each person. Not only do we have to get the task done, but we must also make each person feel as if they got something meaningful out of the experience. If we fail in meeting their expectations, they could simply walk out the door, and there is little that we can do about it. To inspire others to participate and help us lead and grow our organization, we must become servant leaders. Robert Greenleaf is the author credited with coining the phrase servant leadership. And he has a great line from his 1970 essay, The Servant as Leader, where he talks about what sets servant leaders apart. The difference manifests itself in the care taken by the servant first to make sure that other people's highest priority needs are being served. The best test, and difficult to administer, is, do those served grow as persons? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? This is our goal as presiding officers. We must meet the needs of our respective organizations, but do it in a way that helps our members feel as if they have grown in some way. We cannot do this alone. We need the help of our members. We need their engagement to help us meet their own expectations, whatever they may be. This may seem like a daunting task, but the common expectations of our members we spoke about earlier give us a hint at what we can do to build this engagement. Those expectations were impactful ritual, Masonic education, creating social bonds, mentorship, and creating opportunities for your members within the organization. We will briefly touch upon each of these in turn and begin with that one that wasn't previously mentioned but is essential in achieving all of our goals, and that is effective communication. Effective communication is one of the most overlooked aspects of leadership. Simply put, the members must know what is happening well in advance. Not only should we take an active role in communicating the dates, times, and locations of our stated meetings, but we should keep members in the loop about upcoming degrees and practices, what other organizations are doing in our area, and state-level events. We all lead busy lives, but our calendars fill up quickly, so we need to communicate this information a week or more in advance for small events and months in advance for important events. Last-minute notices lead to frustration and poor attendance. Now, I'll tell you a little secret. This is not the secretary's job alone. Every officer, and especially the presiding officer, should help to get the word out. Announcements during stated meetings are not enough. As a group, we should be active on email, phone trees, social media, and text messages. The appropriate use of each of these may vary depending on our members and how they prefer to communicate. It can't hurt to begin your year by asking your members to update their contact information. However, I would strongly urge you to utilize at least 2 or 3 methods of communication to make sure that one of them gets noticed. One of the best resources to generate new ideas of effective communication is to get input from other presiding officers. Look for opportunities to get together and discuss what works in your lodge. Look to other groups such as chapters, councils, commanderies. Look at what Scottish Rite bodies are doing. Some of the tips I have learned from other presiding officers and hope to incorporate in my current endeavors include emails to recap highlights of stated meetings for members who are not present, sending a planned agenda to all officers before the meeting through email or text messaging, and sending written invitations to members who have not attended in some time. In our age of easily ignored emails and missed calls, a letter received in the mail sometimes has an impact that cuts through the noise of daily life. Moving on to creating impactful ritual, this will require active participation and buy-in from all our members. I want to be clear, there is no substitute for practice. A little practice is better than none at all, but regularly scheduled practices are best. It encourages attendance because everyone can plan around it. As a presiding officer, it also helps us to identify our future leaders. Most new members will show up to 1 or 2 practices right after receiving their degrees, but the ones that continue to return and take an active part should be the ones that we consider for our officers in the following year. Ritual should be memorized to the best of one's individual ability. A well-read part can be nice, but nothing beats the impact of a well-performed, memorized ritual. The most defining comment I have ever heard from a new member after a degree was how much it meant to them that our degree team took the time and effort to memorize a ritual and recite it with such feeling. Memorized ritual does not happen without dedication, time, and devotion, and this is what many candidates take away from their experience. If what we impart is important enough for us to take the time to learn it, it makes a strong case to the new brother that it is important enough to participate in. Moving on to Masonic education, this is something that I personally feel strongly about. Most of our organization can improve upon it. There is a philosophy and meaning to all our degrees that should be explored, but can be neglected in the business of our regularly stated meetings. Sadly, this is not just a new problem. Joel P. Lightfoot wrote about it in the 1930s when he said, "We labor diligently in conferring the formal degrees upon many, but I fear we are failing in our efforts to bring them to true Masonic light. In the absence of such light, the great mass of our membership learns nothing more than trite explanations of our symbols, and after listening to the presentation of a few moral precepts with which the profane are equally familiar, they naturally reach the conclusion that Masonry is only a social organization." We often hear the question asked of a brother, "When were you made a Mason?" This question conveys an erroneous idea of the whole process of real initiation. In my opinion, after a long and careful study of the processes of genuine initiation, I have been irresistibly forced to the conclusion that no man is or can be made a Mason in the generally accepted sense of that expression. An initiate may become a Mason, but cannot, in the very nature of the psychological changes which must take place, be made one. Lightfoot continues, "True initiation is a gradual metamorphosis, an emergence from the darkness of ignorance, superstition, fear, and evil tendencies into the light of knowledge, faith, virtue, and spiritual enlightenment. The process is a growth, and not the product of ceremonial investiture. One becomes a true Masonic initiate by the steadfast practice of the virtues, by zealousness in his search for light and knowledge, by subduing his evil tendencies and overcoming his faults, foibles, and follies. Such a transformation cannot be instantly accomplished by the ordinary processes of being conducted through the external forms of ritualistic ceremonies. The forms may be faithfully followed, the allegories eloquently repeated, and the symbols diligently displayed, and yet the novitiate remains as he was before, in thick darkness concerning the immortal wisdom concealed in the laws to be searched out, in order to emerge from darkness into true Masonic light and knowledge. No, a brother cannot be made a Mason. It is a growth, an unfoldment, a becoming. He must discover the truth himself by the aid of the symbols, and when the long night ends and the dawn appears through the processes of following the path of the law, he may then emerge from the darkness into true Masonic light. The true Masonic light referred to by Brother Lightfoot is the true hidden treasure of Masonry. That light only comes about by contemplation both alone and as a group to help us internalize the lessons of Masonry. When asked what Masonry is by the average person on the street, a frequent response by many of us is, we take good men and make them better. Natural follow-up question is, how? And this is where many of us get tripped up, and we should look to our Masonic education to help us. One possible answer to this follow-up question is to explain that we become better by contemplating the symbols of Masonry and practicing the virtues we inculcate so frequently in our rituals. If we take the cardinal virtues and measure every aspect of our lives against them, we not only improve ourselves, but those around us in the world in general. If each of us would weigh our actions by asking 4 questions, which are we practicing temperance? Are we acting with fortitude? Are we being prudent in our decisions? Are we being just? If we ask ourselves those 4 questions, how much better would we be toward how we treat each other and ourselves? That is what Masonry teaches us, and this is where Masonic education becomes important. Albert Pike wrote, "Imagine not that you will become indeed a Mason by learning what is commonly called the work, or even by becoming familiar with our traditions. Masonry has a history, a literature, a philosophy. Its allegories and traditions will teach you much, but much is to be sought elsewhere." Remember when we spoke earlier that we have a different contract as Masonic leaders? We are asked to lead in return for providing growth. We must try to facilitate that growth and help our members find a way to connect with their Masonic teachings. I have heard of some brethren who have formed Masonic book clubs where they choose a book and discuss it as a group. Others engage in contemplative practices where they take time to quietly contemplate a symbol or phrase from the ritual and discuss it in a roundtable format. Some invite lecturers to talk about their experiences. Masonic history are another relevant topic. I've heard of groups signing up together for an established educational program, such as the Scottish Rite's Master Craftsman program, Bob Davis's programs on capitular and cryptic development, or the York Rite Sovereign College's Adept of the Temple. How we try to provide personal growth within our group is up to each of us based on our abilities and inclinations, but we should keep in mind what is important to our members. I cannot stress this enough. Each group will have a different expectation of how that growth will occur, and each person within that group will also be different. Our level of success will vary, but the only way to truly fail is not to try at all. On creating social bonds within our organization, while we do not want to relegate ourselves to being purely a social club, social interactions do have a place in Masonry. They offer an opportunity to build engagement, reinforce connections, and make Masonry fun. There are many possible ways that we can do this. Consider organizing a quarterly dinner and inviting wives and family. Set a night aside to honor past presiding officers. Sponsor a community service event. Arrange a teamwork retreat. We spend a lot of time together, but most of it is during meetings. By creating opportunities to interact outside the lodge, we create tighter bonds amongst our members and help us as leaders to learn what their personal goals and expectations are. Moving on to mentorship, I want to encourage the development of a mentor system within every lodge. Presiding officers should take their junior officers under their wing and seek their opinions when planning events and activities. Delegating frequently will prepare these officers for assuming greater roles within the organization. Look for opportunities and encourage your officers and members to participate in regional or statewide events. These events will help your members connect with the wider community of Texas Masons and discover best practices that may improve your own organization. Try to remain open to their suggestions. The result may be better ritual, good ideas, and more engaged membership. In conclusion, I want to leave you with the following thought. Leadership in a Masonic organization has some unique challenges, but as with any challenge, success brings its own rewards. Masonry has existed for centuries, and our role is to be but temporary students of our small piece of it. However, if we do the job well, we contribute to the success, happiness, and improvement of our members. There are few rewards I can think of that are truer to the Masonic spirit than that. Brethren, I hope that you have a fantastic Masonic year, and may each of you find success in your own way and meet the expectations of your members. Thank you.